Okay. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the South Levee District for August 11th. Russ Gisclair, will you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Mary, roll call, please.
Keith Hitchens.
Here.
Gavin Colley.
Here.
Roland Kirol.
Here.
Mitch Daniels.
Here.
Brett DeRose.
Here.
Scott Terrio.
Here.
Brian Marks.
Here.
McNeely Rowe.
Here.
Martha Bates.
Here.
Mr. President, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. All right, gentlemen, you've been presented the minutes of last month's meeting. I'm looking for a motion to approve. Moved by Scott, second by Brian. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. All right, on the president's report, all I have, Nick and I attended the ALBL Executive Committee meeting this week or last week, and then Nick will give us an update on that. And that's it for me. Executive Committee, moving on to Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we met on Wednesday, August 6th, and discussed multiple topics, including the DNARC ramp litigation. We discussed the risk assessment. Mr. Mathern let us know that the report should be finalized before the end of 2025. We reviewed photos of the alternative vegetative cover demonstration, and Mr. Mathern also informed us that another company would be coming in to perform another demonstration this week. We discussed the progress on the installation of the sheet pile erosion control along the levee. And let's see, we discussed the Barrow Canal shoreline erosion. Mr. Mathern also recommended the board to consider extending the contract for Metric for the monitoring of debris removal after disaster. Let's see, we reviewed active projects as well as projects in design and permitting phase. Mr. Mathern also informed the committee that approximately $11,000 of oil and gas revenues had mistakenly been issued to the Lafourche Basin Levee District, and he would be contacting their executive director to discuss the error and get it corrected. And then other items we discussed, potentially declaring multiple items, looking at as surplus for the levee district in upcoming meetings, and either disposing of them or selling them on auction. So that concludes the executive.
All right, thank you, Scott. Anyone here in the audience to address the board? Okay. Okay, moving on to Nick for the Executive Director's report.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. First up on the Army Corps of Engineers risk assessment. On August 4th, we reviewed the draft findings of the semi-quantitative risk assessment that they've been performing for the past few years. Overall, the main risk that we face is from overwash and overtopping of our levees from storm surge. But then again, this is what we did experience in Hurricane Ida in a few locations, and we did just fine. Even on Section E North specifically, where we had just completed a levee lift, so it only had bare dirt that was just freshly compacted. Water washed over the spot, and we still didn't fail. So also, Ida was close to a 300-year level storm, and they mainly focus on 100-year level storms for this risk assessment. There's also a possible concern about the stability of our levee slope, but not until we get to the level of a 200-year or a 500-year level storm. This is largely because we construct our levees with 3-to-1 slopes, whereas the Corps likes to see 5-to-1 slopes. That means for every 1 foot your levee goes up, it kicks out 5 feet. We don't disagree that that's a quote-unquote better way. It's just way more expensive, and 3-to-1 is what we've been doing, and it's obviously worked just fine. So we're going to keep doing that. Still, with all that considered, their estimate on possible lives lost if our levees would fail without any sort of intervention would be anywhere from 3 to 30 lives if we had a failure of a levee in a 100-year storm. Now, this is after their second modeling run. Since the first modeling run, if y'all remember, I reported a couple months back, looked at 10 feet of water coming into the system over 4 days. They reran the model showing only 24 hours of water coming in, and that reduced to 3 to 30 lives instead of the 600 lives that they were looking at in their initial model runs for the 4-day time. So ultimately, the Corps is going to be recommending that FEMA reinstate our levee system's accreditation for the National Flood Insurance Program. Time will tell what that means in reality, because the entire parish is currently going through a remapping process for its FEMA maps. And even after that remapping process is done, we still don't know how getting our accreditation back will help flood insurance rates, because FEMA won't tell us how they calculate flood insurance rates. That's why we all signed on to the lawsuit with the Attorney General's office 2 years ago. And of course, that's still crawling its way through the federal court system. But one big recommendation that they did keep coming back to was that we address the way our pump station discharge pipes run through our levees. They have concerns about the differing rates of material settlement above and below the pipe, and saying that there could be weak points forming that we would never see. I do completely agree with that assessment. The problem is, of course, money, right? So what they recommend is exponentially more expensive than the way that we do it, where we have our pipes going up and over our levees currently, and in the past few years we've started the practice of burying those pipes largely around the system. The pipes themselves are higher than the levee around it, and so it's not even that big of an issue yet, and there's no guarantee that it ever would definitely be an issue, and it's just our way of doing it versus what they recommend. In the end, the long-term solution would be to construct flood walls in front of the pump stations and have the discharge pipes running through the flood walls. We can see an example of this at the private pump station on D South, which we'll see some photos of later during GIS Engineering's update on their flood wall tie-in project a little further down the agenda. The draft report is currently under review for comment until August 22nd, although we and CPRA have not received a copy of the draft report. We only saw the slides that kind of summarize everything. So in my conversations with the Corps of Engineers today, the New Orleans district is also going to be requesting additional time, because it's not a lot of time between, we expect it next week, and so between the short amount of time until the 22nd, and the fact that the New Orleans district has the Mississippi River Commission coming down next week for the low water inspection trip, they won't have time to review it either, so they're going to request additional time. But as of now, the final report is expected to be finalized by November 1st. I would imagine that's going to get pushed back to mid-November, if not beginning of December, giving, understanding that we need more time to review the draft report. So here, though, you can see the difference in the modeling results between the water coming into the system through a levee breach over 4 days on the left versus only 24 hours on the right. The star is the location of the breach that they forced to happen in the model, which, of course, in a 100-year storm, they say only has between a 1 in 100,000 and a 1 in a million chance of actually happening, that we would have an actual breach of our levee system. So basically, it's not going to happen. But here's the location of the breach that they forced in the model, just to see what would happen in the extremely rare chance that our levee would breach. And the model on the left is what resulted in their estimate of 600 lives lost. But after I made them realize the scenario of 4 feet of water, or 4 days of 10 feet of water coming into the system is completely unrealistic and basically impossible, they agreed and reran the model and came up with the result on the right, which results in them estimating somewhere between 3 and 30 lives lost if this still unrealistic scenario were to actually happen. This slide shows another model run where on the left they caused the breach by Clovelly Farms and had 1 foot of overtopping, and on the right they ran just the overtopping with our levees holding and no breach. So basically what happened in Ida. So you can see the difference between if what happened in Ida would have resulted in a breach, how much water could have potentially come into our system. But much more realistic, what we actually did see in Ida is a little bit of water coming into Cloverly Farms from the overtopping, but no actual breach. So definitely manageable. And this slide shows that same modeling run with 2 feet of overtopping on the left, resulting in a breach of the levee in that location, and on the right, resulting in no breach. But of course, looking at 2 feet of overtopping, you'll see other parts of the levee system starting to get a little bit of overtopping as well, which is why you see more blue on the right side in other areas, because we're looking at 2 feet of overtopping instead of just 1 foot. Overall, still extremely positive results, because even in this 2 foot overtopping, a lot of the water that accumulates, even with no breach, is in lower lying areas where we don't have many houses or buildings, so still extremely manageable. So this process, though, only gets us our FEMA accreditation for the National Flood Insurance Program, like I mentioned earlier. It does not end with us getting back into the Corps' rehabilitation and inspection program. So the Chief of Engineering from the New Orleans District is currently working on a narrative of what now happens for a path forward for the next steps of getting into the Corps' rehabilitation and inspection program, which is our ultimate goal, because that gives us the right, if we have a storm come in and damage our system, we can then make a claim through the federal government with that program that the Corps of Engineers would come in and pay 100% of the repairs for any damages that we'd see, as long as we maintain our status in that program. So this process that we're concluding right now is just one step in that overall process. So I've reached out to the Corps to ask for a representative to attend one of our future meetings after the final report is complete, so they can give a more full explanation of what they found and what they're recommending. So I'll let y'all know when that gets scheduled. So I don't know if there are any questions on that whole process as of now. All right, so next would be the purchase of additional sheet pile. So we've been extremely successful recently with our shoreline protection efforts by installing 12-foot long vinyl sheet pile along most of our most vulnerable stretches of levee on the west side of our system. That work's mostly been taking place between the Golden Meadow Park near the Ronald Colley pump station and based on its boat launch near pump station number 2. So this is being done through an area permit that we received a few years back that allows us to install the sheet pile anywhere we need it along our entire system. And after conferring with our executive committee, we will also be going back over the next few weeks to reinforce what we've done by installing treated 2x6 boards to connect. You know, the way we've installed these sheets, I think, is definitely better than what we've done in the past, where we had a gap of about 3 to 5 feet between where we've installed and the existing shoreline. When we saw heavier wave action from storms, we see that allowed, kind of like what happened on 17th Street Canal in New Orleans. You had the ability for that flood wall to rock back and forth, ultimately failing. That's happened with a lot of the sheet pile that we've installed in previous years. Plus, that sheet pile was only 8 feet long, where we have 12 feet. But here it's definitely a better way of installing it right up against the shoreline, so you don't have that way for it to rock back and forth. But to be extremely sure, we're going to go back and put some 2x6 boards on the back side, bolting them to, you know, every so often, bolting them to some of the sheet pile just to keep the whole thing in place. It's not a straight line, so we'll have to be strategic as to how we tie those in, but it'll hold the whole thing better together, much better. So at a previous meeting, we purchased up to $150,000 worth of sheet pile after receiving 3 quotes. So today, I'd like to recommend 2 more actions so we can continue with our operations. The first is I'd recommend the board approve purchase of another $75,000 worth of sheet pile under that quote to continue operations, and this will keep us under the public bid threshold. And then the second option is, while we're working with those sheets, I'd also recommend that the board authorize advertisement for bids so that we're in line with public bid law moving forward to establish firm prices for 12-foot vinyl sheet pile to match what we're currently installing, with delivery to be made as needed throughout a contract period of 12 months. So we'll use language from a recently completed similar bid by Lafourche Parish Government, where they bid out firm pricing for 12 months on culverts and related materials. And we'll be sure that everything is, of course, reviewed by our attorney before we submit the language for advertisement. So I'm definitely open to any questions and discussion before we consider any actual motions on that.
Is that part of the sheet piles to protect the east side of the Borough Canal too, or?
Not
yet.
It can be. We can use it for that too, but we're not.
All right, you've heard the recommendation of our general manager.
So we'll take those individually.
Okay.
So first, I'd recommend that the board approve purchasing of 12-foot vinyl sheet piles under the existing quotes for an amount not to exceed an additional $75,000.
All right, you've heard the recommendation of our general manager. Moved by Max, second by Gavin. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.
Okay, thank you. And then the second, I'd recommend that the board authorize advertisement for a request for bids pending legal review and approval to establish firm prices for 12-foot vinyl sheet pile for a period of 12 months from the date of award.
I have a question. The vendor's just going to hold on to them after until we need them?
The language in the bid advertisement will say that it'll be as requested for delivery for that 12-month period.
Or drop ship, whatever needed to bring to the location.
All right, you've heard the recommendation of general manager. Moved by Mr. Rowland, second by Brett. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Next up, extension of debris monitoring contract. So last month, we voted to approve the extension of the disaster debris removal contract with Dynamic Group for an additional year. So today, I'd like to recommend the board also approve the extension of the disaster debris monitoring contract with Metric for an additional year. So after a storm, if you have enough debris that warrants mobilizing a contractor to remove the debris, you have one contract with one company for removing the debris itself and another company to perform the monitoring of that company's efforts. So this ensures that you keep all the documentation in line. This is required by FEMA. It's not us being overly particular. So I'd recommend that the board approve this one-year contract extension with Metric Consulting for disaster debris monitoring services.
The monitoring contract is, there's a fee even if you don't use them, or it's only as needed?
It's only as needed. So we're only paying either one, the removal or the monitoring. You only incur any costs if you actually call them up and mobilize them. These contracts are just pre-positioning so that after a storm, we don't have to quickly go through the process of assessing anybody. You do this in advance of a disaster so that everything is in line for FEMA reimbursement later.
Okay.
All right, we've heard the recommendation of general manager to extend the contract with Metric. Moved by Scott, second by Mitch. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Next up is an update on Reach L levee maintenance. This is part of the Morganza to the Gulf system. So I wanted to highlight some recent cooperation we've had with the Terrebonne Levee District on Reach L. Reach L ties into our system, as you can see, near the excuse me, the intersection of section C North and C South, right here. This is near the Côte Blanche connection in Cutoff, just so people have an orientation of where we're talking about in the system. Terrebonne Levee District constructed this levee section a few years back, and while waiting to get their design approved for their flood wall, which crosses the Williams pipeline as part of this levee reach, they issued a change order to their construction contractor to stockpile additional dirt on the back side of the levee they constructed. Reach L has settled a good bit in the past couple of years, so we have one of our dozers and operators doing levee maintenance work to push that stockpile material into the levee cross section to try to get back up to the elevation it was constructed to. It's settled down to around a 7-foot elevation for most of this, and we doubt we'll have enough material to get up to the 10-foot elevation that we're targeting, but we'll shape it as best that we can to try to hit that target. Section C South of our system near that tie-in is still around 17 feet in elevation, so we still have about 7 more feet above where we're targeting. It's about 10 feet above right now what this levee section is. So there's still no danger of this section of levee of Reach L, Morganza, causing backup of any kind of floodwaters that would overtop our system. There's still a very long way to go on Reach L before we have to worry about that. Although when we do get to that level, the Corps of Engineers is going to be responsible for the cost of elevating Section C South to make sure that they don't cause any flood inducements on our system. So, but just as a reminder to the public, I guess, for us working on this system is that, you know, our jurisdiction is not only inside the La Rose to Golden Meadow system by state constitution, state law. Our jurisdiction is everything in Lafourche Parish south of the intracoastal. So that includes all of Reach K of Morganza to the Gulf and all of Reach L of Morganza to the Gulf. And that's why we're partnering with them. So when this is all said and done, we are going to be responsible, and that's in our agreement with Terrebonne Levee District, that we're responsible for maintaining the grass on this section of levee when it's all done. The Terrebonne Levee District, as part of our agreement, will be responsible for maintaining the grass west of Grand Bayou and the Reggie Bagala floodgate, because it's easier for them to access it by land and easier for us to access Reach L by land. So we're making that split on maintenance long term. But Reach L definitely provides some protection to the Grand Bois community and down to Pointe-aux-Chenes, especially tying in with Reach K on that side. And those communities are also at least partially inside of our jurisdiction. So we're excited to be able to partner with them, and it's looking great so far. We haven't had a lot of, unfortunately, with all the rain that we've had, we haven't had many dry days that we've been able to work since starting that. But any questions on that? All right, and the last item on my report that's on the agenda is a request to declare an unused boat trailer as surplus equipment. We have a small aluminum boat with no motor that this trailer used to be used for, but the tongue and axle on this trailer are bent, so we haven't really used it in a long time. We really don't need it for that boat to be used because it's light enough that we can handle it by hand and put it on a different trailer. We're currently using this boat to help with installation of the sheet pile if our guys need to be physically in the water to be able to, maneuver the sheet piles in place. But again, we're moving it around by hand right now. So this trailer is unnecessary and we can declare it surplus. So I'd recommend the board declare this trailer as surplus property and authorize advertisement to accept sealed bids on someone purchasing this pending legal review and approval.
We're gonna put a minimum bid.
We can look at a minimum bid. Looking at just how much we'd even get for scrap on this. Look at this. We're just following state bid laws and surplus laws. So I'm not really expecting too much. I don't want to say publicly what we expect, but I'll say it won't be much. We'll leave it at that, I guess.
All right, you've heard the recommendation by General Manager to declare that surplus. Moved by Scott, second by Brian. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
And I guess nobody did that to the trailer either. I came to look
Yeah,
it up.
it came
Like
like
what? Came like
Oh, okay. So that would be to declare it as surplus. So now we need a separate motion to authorize advertisement to accept the sealed bids.
Okay. You heard the recommendation by General Manager to accept bids for the trailer. Moved by Max, second by Mitch. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you, gentlemen. And we'll come back at either September or October meeting to award that bid once we receive it. All right, and one final item that's not on the agenda. So as President Guidry reported, he and I attended the ALBL Executive Committee meeting on Friday in Baton Rouge. And on the way, we got a phone call from Gordon Dove, who's the Governor's Office of Coastal Activities chair and chair of CPRA. If you've been following the news lately, the past few months, you've seen some back and forth about the controversy with canceling the Mid-Barataria diversion project in Plaquemines Parish. Whether you love it or you hate it, the decision's been made. And so that funding, which is a couple $2 billion of funding that was tied to that project, CPRA is now looking to reallocate all that funding to other projects in the master plan. And Chairman Dove assured us that we could share this information publicly. There's still some approvals that have to happen, but that a lot of that funding is going to be coming into Lafourche Parish in the form of marsh creation. So this funding was coming through the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation and the Natural Resources Damage Assessment, both tied to the BP oil spill in 2010. And so there's some limitations on what that funding can be spent on. It has to be on some sort of environmental restoration. It cannot be spent on flood protection. That being said, as we know and we've seen over the course of history, whatever marsh we have between us and the Gulf is positive. And so we're really excited about the prospect of being able to do a large amount of marsh restoration in Lafourche Parish on the west and the east side. So one project that's we're looking to, hopefully by the September meeting, but definitely by the October meeting, to get an intergovernmental agreement authorized with CPRA is going to be the Eastern Terrebonne Land Bridge. So there's a west and central portion in the state master plan and also an eastern portion in the master plan. So overall, this would be about $700 million of marsh restoration between the Home and Navigation Canal and Bayou Lafourche. So all this rim of North Terrebonne Bay between HNC and Bayou Terrebonne, which there'll also be a Bayou Terrebonne Ridge restoration project along here. But this marsh creation project will be going very shortly to engineering, design, and permitting. Now, we've been assured that in our agreement between us and the Terrebonne Levee District and us and CPRA, this alignment and these green polygons here that are in the master plan are not set in stone. They've never really been set in stone in any master plan, right? These are conceptual, and as you start going through design and permitting, these can shift around a lot and still be considered in agreement with the state master plan. So if we decided to shift this marsh creation further south to be, to come in and tie into the Bayou Lafourche Ridge, south of our entire levee system, we're definitely going to be supported by CPRA in pushing that. So that's likely going to be a shift that happens as this moves forward. But then on the eastern side of our levee system, this was the bulk of the conversation that Keith and I had with Gordy on Friday, because we were already aware of the project on the Terrebonne side as of 2 weeks ago, but we weren't completely sure on what was happening on the eastern side. We knew that some money was coming in, and it's still not 100% set in stone and how much, but we're definitely being told that CPRA is going to be sending some money down our way for us to be able to contract to get marsh creation happening on the east side. So we're going to have a lot of control over where exactly this marsh is going to be created, but the projects that are in the master plan are the Southeast Golden Meadow Marsh Creation Central, and along with the northern portion, all the way up to the Barataria Land Bridge west. So overall, there's a Barataria Land Bridge concept that Jefferson and Plaquemines are going to be handling with CPRA to continue this all the way to the Mississippi River. But our portion can go all the way up into the Bayou Pero and Wrigley's area, west of Little Lake, between our system and Little Lake, and then again further south into the Golden Meadow area. So I hate to sound a little ridiculous and say it feels like we kind of won the lottery, but it feels like we kind of won the lottery, and it's still been a little surreal. And time's gonna play out, what this actually looks like, but this is kind of an unprecedented situation, and I don't know when we're ever going to be able to see this kind of opportunity moving ahead. So, I mean, we've got a huge responsibility to make sure that this is going to be spent well, and it's going to give us some incredibly beneficial marsh restoration over the next few years that we'll be able to start design and construction on. So
The Barrett area land bridge is going to connect our system also eventually?
the Barrett Land Bridge, part of it is going to be, or would include, at least in concept, this ridge restoration, or the rim restoration rather, on the western side of Little Lake. So we'll see exactly when we know exactly how much funding we have to work with, how much marsh creation we can do, and we'll be able to have a lot of control locally. And when I say local, I mean specifically this board will be able to have the say in where that money's going to be going and what that project's going to look like, and can include some shoreline protection along the rim of Little Lake. So this is big.
The Ducks Unlimited that was supposed to start doing some below the beyond floodgates, they're still gonna go on?
Yeah, so what Mac is talking about is, if y'all remember, Ducks Unlimited came by a few meetings back and gave us an update on some terracing projects that they had applied for grant funding and received grant funding for in this area. So we'll definitely be working with them to make sure that they're aware of this. And I mean, to me, it makes all the sense in the world for them to maybe, even if they have to move some of their terracing, move it further north, whatever we do in this larger scale marsh creation south of them is just going to give protection to their terracing and make it last longer. So
I thought it was gonna start like sometime in November, December.
yeah, so I mean, moving forward, I think it can only be a positive for everybody. So
Great news.
fantastic.
And guys, the original plan, that land bridge is supposed to be like 2,500 feet wide. On the edges, 3 foot, come to a crown of 5 foot. That's gonna only help to buffer for our levee. I mean, that's awesome news, I'm sorry.
And I mean, with a 5 foot, center, kind of, not necessarily a ridge, but a marsh platform at 5 feet in elevation, there's a lot of opportunities for some of these environmental groups to be able to go and do some serious planting. At 5 feet, you can start to get tree growth on some of these, I'll call them ridges, but really just high elevation marsh platforms. So there's a lot of opportunity coming up.
They're lost, but I'll be.
Right. So, and this is, CPRA wants to move pretty quickly on this. So if we don't have something to consider by the September meeting in terms of an agreement with CPRA to be able to get these funds moving, and I would imagine it will definitely be by the October meeting. So Ryan, get ready to review and write some language.
Whoever criticized the governor when he canceled the diversion, it's gonna help us out more than that. I know
Get hit double.
Doug made that decision, so everything's good.
And that's how rumors get started.
We canceled, said don't panic.
So
Anything else, Nick?
that's all I got.
Any questions for Nick? Good.
Great.
All right, moving on to engineering report, CPRA. Daniel, you have anything to report?
For the board, Mr. President.
Okay. Okay, Corps of Engineers.
Not this one.
No,
Maybe so.
project engineer, this is the old associate, Joe.
On the LaRose Lock project, we continue to support the parish in their effort to get HMGP funding for this project. I did have a discussion with HGA last week, and he's there, the consultant for the parish, and they said that GOSEP has approved the phase 1 part of the application, so that'll be going on to FEMA, which is some good news. And we're continuing helping them do modeling in support of the benefit cost analysis for the project, which is also looking good too, in our favor. On Section E North levee improvements, this is on the east side of Clovelly, construction site specialties. is the contractor, they haven't been working in the last week or two mostly because of weather. But we do have the levee crown up to elevation now, and we do have the flood side and the protected side slopes of the crown completed. And then we're working on the protected side berm now, and getting that up to grade also with the contractor. We do have a pay application from Campo and Sons. Campo is helping us doing the fine grading on the project. That's pay application number 10 in the amount of $59,992.50, and we recommend you approve that.
All right, you've heard the recommendation of our engineer, the pay application number 10, the Campo and Sons, the amount of $59,992.50. Moved by Mr. Rowland, second by Brett. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
We don't have a pay application from Construction Site Specialties this month. We'll have a one next month. Under Section A East Levee Improvements, we're continuing to work with the Corps on their permitting and their 408 permission. Nick and I had a meeting, a conference call with them this past month. We're continually providing information back and forth with them. The other thing that they brought up in this project also is the discharge pipe going through the levee. So we submitted some information to them. Hopefully the next time we have our meeting, we'll have some feedback to them on what they think of what we've done so far. The emergency gate closure at the LaRose floodgate. So we've had the winches on order for quite some time. Scheduled delivery for the winches is August the 26th. We'll get confirmation of that, and as soon as we have confirmation, we'll issue a notice to proceed to the contractor. TLP Construction is the contractor. And also on our Section D North levee improvements, this was awarded to us in the last meeting with initial field surveying is complete. We've plotted all our cross sections and we're coming up with design cross sections. We do have a proposal on the agenda associated with this from Stratum Engineering to do the geotechnical work in accordance with CPRA and also from Corps requirements. That amount is $336,900 even, and we do recommend you approve that.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation of engineer to approve that. Moved by Monty, second by Brett. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
Thank you.
GIS, John, you give it a report?
Looking for money, huh?
Good afternoon, John Plaisant with GIS Engineering. Our first project is still A East. Nick is still coordinating with the landowner in that area to reroute it a little bit on the northern end. The D North ramp project, I'm sorry, that's where it is. The green was the original alignment, and we're going to move it to the blue. You can see that yellow line between is the property line.
I did reach out to the landowner again last week and was assured that they're continuing to review it. So we just need their sign off before we can actually get this done and get their right-of-way agreement signed.
Okay, the D North ramp lift project is progress is being made. It still should be finished on time. Sometimes this month, they should hopefully be able to start actually paving that area. We have a pay application number 3 in the amount of $17,733.27 for onshore materials. They have gotten all the ramp in place. They're just waiting to see. We make them wait 28 days to see how much it settles before they actually build on top of it.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation of our engineer to pay onshore materials. Pay app number 3, the amount of $17,733.27. Moved by Gavin, second by Mitch. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, the D-South flood wall at Crawfish Farms Phase 3, that project is complete. The 45-day lien period has expired. We have been provided with a clear lien certificate, so we have pay application number 6, which will be the final one, in the amount of $49,677.13 to sea level.
All right, you've heard the recommendation of engineer, pay application number 6, the sea level, the amount of $49,677.13. Moved by Matt, second by Brian. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.
And on this picture in the middle, you can see the Schwest pump station. The discharge pipes go through the wall, and that part, that was done as, I believe, part of Phase 2, as I recall. The first set of wings was in Phase 1, I believe. That was Phase 2. And then Phase 3, we're extending the wall, the tie-ins to the levee.
So this,
Although that had been done back in the 90s.
so this is the basic idea of what the Corps would like to see us doing with all of our pump stations, where we'd have, instead of the pipes going up and over the levees like they currently are, and now instead of moving those pipes, so you're limited on how high you can move those pipes because your engines on your pumps only have a certain amount of horsepower. So eventually, you're not going to have enough horsepower to be able to get
Pump the water.
go up and over. So here, you can put your pipes only straight through and be able to utilize, all of your horsepower without having to force it to go up and over. And then you just install backflow preventers for when the water gets higher above the discharge pipe opening, to where you don't have water coming backwards into the system. I'll say arguably a better way to do it. It's just way more expensive, right? So eventually, this is one of the reasons I would like to see the language that we had in the WRDA bill from last year, where the Corps would come in and do an assessment of our project and see what we have to do to get our system as it is now up to their 100-year level storm prevention standards. This kind of effort would be included in there. And so kind of taking a page out of what Terrebonne's been doing lately on the Morganza project. Locally, you make the argument, okay, well, we'll do all the levee work, you come in as the federal government and you build all the structures, right? Because that's a much higher price tag. And so ultimately, I would like to see what they're estimating that cost would be and if they can justify, and then we'd be able to get some federal funds to help do all this effort.
So their problem is that they don't like the pipe being in the ground?
Correct.
Because of the moisture and all?
Because if you have the pipes going through,
Vibration?
you've got the pipes going up and over the existing levee, and then everything, all the dirt under the pipes are going to settle at one rate, because the pipes are not just resting on the ground, right? They're resting on saddles, so you have, pile supported structures that they're held up on. So the levee itself under the pipes would be settling at one rate, and the dirt that you put on top of the pipes and that would go in between the spaces would be settling at a different rate. And you wouldn't be able to see if you happen to have all that settling at a different rate, and you might not be able to tell if you've got a space between the top of the levee under the pipe and above. So it's
Having a problem and knowing it is one thing, having a
Right.
problem and not knowing it is something else.
Yeah.
The pump.
Okay, and the final project we have for y'all right now is the Raphael Project Road Bridge Replacement. Again, it's on the road to this facility as well as pump station number 4, and the D North project as well. It is an old bridge that is in need of replacement. It's not technically y'all's, but y'all use it more than anybody else. So we're looking at finding ways to upgrade that bridge.
So that's further up, John, towards Highway 308.
That's toward Highway 308, yes, sir.
Before you turn in.
Right.
It's at the 40 Arpin Canal.
Where the fence is at.
So you cross over it, you turn right to go to pump station number 4, go straight to get here.
My worry here, as we've talked about in the past, is if anything happens to that bridge in a storm, we can't get fuel to pump station number 4 and Golden Meadows flooding, right? So we may not have to completely replace the bridge, we may be able to reinforce it some kind of way, but I just want to make sure that we've got a solid guarantee that that bridge is going to be stable for a long time.
John.
And that's all we have.
Anything else? Any questions for John?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, how'd you like this up there, Neil?
All right, on the B North, B South levee maintenance project, New Gym Construction is working on the protected side berm for this levee section. We're recommending approval of their invoice number 1053 in the amount of $50,310 and no cents.
Okay, and where, this is,
This is on the B North segment, so it's north of the Golden Meadow Park, south of Basalt.
So behind our office here, going south a little ways.
okay, you've heard the recommendation of our engineer, pay invoice 1053 to New Gym, an amount of $50,310. Moved by Max, second by Monty, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.
And just for reference, this is also where we're doing our vegetative planning, our hydroseeding demonstrations and comparisons. So,
Also on this levee section, we have Compo and Sons working on the flood side maintenance and the protected side berm. Similar work to what New Gym is doing, just a little different area. We recommend approval of his invoice number 1418 in the amount of $144,112.50.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation of our engineer to pay invoice 1418 to Compo and Sons in the amount of $144,112.50. Moved by Mitch, second by Gavin. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.
The last project I have is the LaRose floodgate mooring pile repairs. This was damage on the LaRose floodgate mooring piles. The Tidewater dock completed all the repairs on last month. They also did some repair work while they were out there on the fendering system. So that work is complete.
That's good. Okay. Any questions for Neil? Thank you, Neil.
Thank you.
Delta Coast, anything to report?
Kyle Pierce, Delta Coast. Just to kind of piggyback a little bit on what Nick was talking about with Reach L. So you guys are going from, I guess, where the levee ties in, the Reach L levee ties into the South Lafourche levee to the pump station, and y'all are doing, I guess, in-house, some grading in there. And then Terrebonne Levee is preparing a package right now. We're preparing it for them to take quotes basically from the western side of the Dufresne Form to the pump station, kind of do a similar thing, and then come back and fine grade the entire stretch, that whole Dufresne, South Dufresne Form stretch. We're hoping, like Nick said, 9 to 10 elevations somewhere in there for Reach L. And then also the instrumentation, just to give you a little brief update. I know we approved last month to advertise for that. I think Nick is in the process of getting a meeting scheduled with FPNC to discuss just some specifics, and then we're gonna just go from there. We sent somebody out today to take pictures of all the sites to try and get the ball rolling. So.
Just to add on to that, this has been a little frustrating that we got it approved through capital outlay last year, and we're still fighting with facility planning and control on the state level to get that money actually moving. We've employed our state representative to go knock on some cubicle doors, or I guess there's no doors on cubicles, but it's definitely being held up by one particular individual in Baton Rouge, and so we're trying to figure out how to scoot things along, just because this is not a typical project that he's used to dealing with, and so he's got a lot of questions that are just delaying and delaying. And everything we're proposing to do is completely in line with state procurement, and we're just trying to give him all the information to show him that we're doing everything correctly. So
That's all I got, guys. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you, Howard.
Okay, all sides, Stevie.
Stevie Smith at All South. Got a couple of projects to talk about today. One of them is one that's been around for a while, the terrace repairs for Reach K. This is a project that we're getting some FEMA money reimbursed for. We've had a lot of trouble, frankly, getting you the reimbursement for this. For the terrace repair project is about $400,000. We were advised to follow one path to try and facilitate this a little quicker, and that has not worked. As recently as today, we had some communication with GOSEP and FEMA. you know, guys, they told us to go straight to what they call closeout, where you just took the whole project and looked at it all in one package. Most of your FEMA projects, you do the work, you finish it out, then you go to closeout after that. Since it's a very small project, they recommended we go to closeout for the whole thing before we submitted a reimbursement request, because that was gonna be quicker. That is not the case. We're still working to get it closed out so we can get you the entire amount instead of a piece of it. But as recently as today, we had some communication on that, which I think is gonna hopefully loosen up the logjam. The other one to talk about is the levee work on the center portion of Reach K. So that's about a 2-mile section of levee between the two water control structures. To refresh your memory, there's some funding that was actually Mesa funding, I believe, allocated for the Lafourche Parish government. Parish President Chasson communicated to CPRA that we could use it for the Reach K center section. So we started work on there about a month and a half ago. We were making pretty good progress until the last couple of weeks. Now it seems to be raining every day, right, down here. So we've been kind of hit or miss. The Reach levee is about 2 miles long. There's about 4,000 feet that is below a 9-foot elevation. So once we reactivated the project, we started working on that section that's below 9 feet. They've got about half of that up to a solid 9 foot. And once we get that up to 9, which is really about a week's more worth of work, of dry work, then we're going to bring the whole thing up to 11. But the idea is get the weak spot up to 9 before we get a storm that comes this way. And again, if the weather allows, they had scheduled 20 trucks to work today, but not in the rain. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Steve? Thank you, Steve.
And to go to weather.
Okay, legal permits byway committee, Mitch, anything?
All right, we got 2 of them this month, Shell Pipeline Company LP and Louis Jeremy. After reviewing these 2 permits, looking the board to approve these 2 permits.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation of our chairman to approve those 2 permits. Moved by Brian, second by Mr. Rowland. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. All right, board attorney, we're gonna go into executive session later. Let's finish this. Finance committee, Monty?
Mr. President, Finance Committee met before this meeting and reviewed all invoices and determined to pay them as presented.
Okay, you heard the recommendation of our finance chairman to pay all our bills.
Got to.
Moved by Scott, second by Mitch. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Any old business? Any old business? Okay, any new business? Session. Looking for a motion to adjourn this meeting?
No, executive session.
Okay, we have to.
So need a motion.
Roll call to go into.
Motion to, and a second to go to executive session with a roll call vote.
Okay.
And you need to state the purpose of the case.
Okay. All right. Recommendation, we go into executive session to discuss the LA contracting invoices. Moved by Max, second by Gavin. All in favor?
No, roll call.
Guidry,
Yes.
Gavin Polly,
Yes.
Roland Curall,
Yes.
Mitch Daniels,
Yes.
Brett DeBroach,
Yes.
Scott Terrio,
Yes.
Brian Moritz,
Yes.
McNeely Rome,
Yes.
Monty Vegas.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Okay. Motion carried.
Yeah. That's always keep that up.